2 people were killed and 6 others injured in a shooting early Monday outside an unsanctioned warehouse party in downtown Los Angeles. Police had shut down the party hours earlier after spotting an armed person, but gunfire erupted around 1 a.m., causing chaos. Authorities suspect the event was tied to a gang-related Hood Day celebration and recovered multiple firearms at the scene, the Los Angeles Times has reported. The incident highlights growing concerns over illegal parties in downtown's industrial zones, where vacant warehouses often host unpermitted gatherings linked to violence, drugs, and other crimes. No suspects have been identified, and the investigation is ongoing. China is experiencing a surge in chikungunya virus cases, with over 10,000 infections reported, mostly in the Guangdong province. The city of Foshan alone has over 7,000 cases, prompting COVID-like isolation measures for patients. Though no deaths have been reported, the virus, spread by mosquitoes, can cause fever, joint pain, and in rare cases, severe complications. The CDC has issued a Level 2 travel advisory for the region and recommends precautions like insect repellent and protective clothing. Globally, chikungunya cases have risen sharply in 2025, with 240,000 cases and 90 deaths reported across 16 countries. The virus has spread through parts of Asia, Africa, the Americas, and the Pacific, and isolated cases have appeared in the United States, all travel-related, the Daily Mail has reported. 2 non-routine vaccines are available for travelers and high-risk individuals, but there is no specific antiviral treatment. NATO has begun coordinating regular large-scale weapons deliveries to Ukraine, with key contributions from European nations. The Netherlands pledged €500 million in air defense and other military aid, while Sweden, Denmark, and Norway will jointly send $500 million in weapons and equipment, arriving by September. These packages, largely sourced from U.S. stockpiles, target Ukraine's urgent battlefield needs, especially air defenses, as Russia intensifies its attacks. European allies have now surpassed the United States in total military aid to Ukraine, contributing €72 billion since 2022, the Associated Press has reported. Although NATO itself supplies only non-lethal aid, its role is expanding as the United States, under President Trump, reduces direct support and urges Europe to take the lead. The Florida Department of Health is warning against drinking raw, unpasteurized milk after 21 people, including 6 young children, became ill with E. coli linked to milk from the same farm. 7 were hospitalized, and 2 developed serious complications. Though raw milk is illegal for human consumption in Florida, it can be sold as pet food. Health officials stress that raw milk can carry dangerous bacteria and urge caution, noting that pasteurization eliminates these risks, CBS News has reported. Despite claims of health benefits by advocates, the CDC maintains that pasteurized milk is safer and equally nutritious. President Trump announced plans to substantially raise tariffs on India over its continued purchase and resale of Russian oil. India, which currently faces a 10% minimum tariff, could see that rate rise to at least 25%. India pushed back, calling the move unfair and citing global market pressures that redirected oil supplies after the war in Ukraine began. The Indian government defended its imports as necessary for energy stability and noted that the United States and the European Union also trade with Russia, CNN has reported. The tariff threat comes as President Trump pressures Russia to reach a ceasefire with Ukraine. U.S. Representative Nancy Mace has officially launched her campaign for the governor of South Carolina, entering a crowded GOP primary to succeed term-limited Governor Henry McMaster. Mace, now in her 3rd term in Congress, has positioned herself as a defender of women's rights and privacy, while also backing restrictions on transgender access to women's restrooms in the U.S. Capitol. Her campaign video includes praise from President Donald Trump, despite a rocky past with the president, Politico has reported. Mace will compete against Lieutenant Governor Pamela Abbott, Attorney General Alan Wilson, and Representative Ralph Norman, all likely to seek Trump's influential endorsement. A sudden cloudburst triggered a devastating flash flood and mudslide in a Himalayan town in India on Tuesday, killing at least 4 people and leaving around 60 missing, including soldiers. The flood, fueled by intense rainfall, swept away buildings and overwhelmed the town during a local festival. Rescue operations are underway, but ongoing rain and damaged roads are hampering efforts. Authorities warn of further landslides as rivers remain dangerously high, The Guardian has reported. Experts link the disaster to climate change and reckless development, calling it a warning of worsening extreme weather driven by a warming planet. Firefighters in Ashcroft, British Columbia, believed a brush fire on July the 30th was sparked when an osprey dropped a large fish onto power lines, likely due to heat exhaustion. The fish ignited dry grass below, causing a blaze that briefly cut power to the town. About 4,800 gallons of water were used to extinguish the fire. Thankfully, the bird, dubbed the prime suspect, was unharmed, the Associated Press has reported. Firefighters shared the story with humor, joking the osprey may have been trying to cook its catch. Tennessee executed 69-year-old Byron Black on Tuesday by lethal injection, despite concerns that his implanted defibrillator could prolong his death by attempting to restart his heart. Black, convicted of a 1988 triple murder, had his final appeal rejected by the U.S. Supreme Court, which declined to block the execution over concerns of cruel and unusual punishment. Witnesses reported Black appeared in pain during the process, expressing discomfort to his spiritual advisor before dying at 10:43 a.m. local time, Al Jazeera has reported. Governor Bill Lee declined to grant clemency. Firefighters are battling multiple lightning-sparked wildfires in northwestern Colorado that have burned nearly 21,000 acres near Meeker. The Elk Fire has scorched 7,750 acres, and the Lee Fire, now merged with the Grease Fire, has spread across 13,025 acres. Hot, dry, and windy conditions are fueling rapid fire growth, prompting structure protection efforts and disaster emergency declaration from the governor, Jared Polis. 2 homes have been lost thus far, and evacuation orders are in place, the Colorado Sun has reported. Smoke is affecting air quality across several counties, and multiple public lands and wildlife areas have been closed for safety. Jesse Lee Calhoun, already indicted for the murders of 3 women near the Portland, Oregon area, has now been charged with a 4th killing, that of 22-year-old Kristen Smith in November of 2022. A grand jury added counts of second-degree murder and abuse of a corpse to his case. Calhoun, suspected of killing and dumping the bodies of young women across Oregon and southwest Washington, remains in custody with a trial expected in 2027. Authorities continue investigating a possible 5th related death, the Associated Press has reported. Calhoun was previously released early from prison for wildfire firefighting, but was returned in 2023 when linked to the killings. Storm Floris brought severe winds and heavy rain to northern Britain, disrupting travel, downing trees, and cutting power to over 22,000 properties. Scotland was hardest hit, with gusts reaching 90 miles per hour, prompting an amber warning from the UK Met Office. Trains, ferries, and events like Edinburgh Military Tattoo were cancelled, the Associated Press has reported. Authorities urged residents to secure outdoor items and prepare for winter-like travel conditions, as the storm also affected parts of Northern Ireland, Wales, and Northern England. An animal trapper in California discovered wild pigs with blue-tinged muscles and fat caused by exposure to diphacinone, a dyed anticoagulant rodenticide. The pigs had reportedly eaten directly from bait stations, raising concerns about widespread contamination along the Salinas River in an agricultural area. Although California banned most uses of diphacinone in 2024, agricultural exemptions remain, posing risks to wildlife and the food chain. Experts warn that visible decoloration isn't a reliable indicator of contamination, the San Francisco Gate has reported. Hunters are advised to not consume discolored meat, as rodenticide exposure may go undetected. Conor McGregor has officially announced his bid to become the next president of Ireland, just days after losing an appeal in a civil rape case. In a social media post, the former UFC champion criticized Ireland's election rules as barriers to democratic participation and launched a petition to change the nomination process so that he can appear on the ballot. McGregor, who has no political experience, is seeking public support despite his recent legal setbacks, including being found liable for sexual assault and facing further lawsuits, the Daily Mail has reported. The Irish presidency is largely ceremonial and holds limited political power. Former President Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton are among several high-profile figures subpoenaed by a U.S. congressional committee investigating Jeffrey Epstein. Led by Republican James Comer, the House Oversight Committee is seeking testimony and documents related to Epstein's sex trafficking case and the federal government's handling of it. Other subpoenaed individuals include former U.S. attorneys general and FBI directors. Bill Clinton is scheduled to testify in October due to past ties to Epstein, including documented flights on his private jet. The committee also subpoenaed the Justice Department, seeking unreleased Epstein records, the BBC has reported. Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's convicted associate, was set to testify, but her deposition has been postponed. A growing number of House Republicans from blue states are speaking out against their party's mid-decade redistricting efforts, fearing they could lose their own seats. Their opposition marks a break with Speaker Mike Johnson and President Trump, who support GOP-led map redraws in states like Texas to gain more House seats. But Representatives Kevin Kiley from California, Mike Lawler from New York, and Nicole Maliotakis from New York have criticized the move and introduced or plan to introduce legislation to ban mid-decade redistricting, Axios has reported. Their push comes amid Democratic threats to retaliate with gerrymandering in states like New York and California. Pfizer raised its full-year adjusted profit forecast due to cost cuts and strong business performance, beating Q2 revenue estimates driven by COVID products and other drugs. The new profit guidance is for $2.90 to $3.10 per share, which is up from $2.80 to $3 per share, while maintaining its 2025 revenue outlook of $61 billion to $64 billion. The company plans to record a $1.35 billion one-time charge linked to a cancer drug licensing deal, CNBC has reported. Pfizer is also navigating potential impacts from U.S. tariffs and drug price pressure under the Trump administration, with ongoing talks to address drug affordability and competitiveness. NASA plans to fast-track building a nuclear reactor on the moon by the year 2030 to support a permanent human base, amid growing competition from China and Russia. The initiative, backed by acting NASA head Sean Duffy, aims to secure U.S. leadership in lunar exploration and national security. However, the project faces challenges, including recent steep budget cuts, technical hurdles, and concerns about political motivations overshadowing scientific goals, the BBC has reported. While many experts agree that nuclear power is essential for sustained lunar habitation, questions remain about safety, logistics, and whether the timeline is realistic without clear coordination and funding. AMD reported slightly missed earnings with 48 cents per share versus 49 expected, but revenue beat estimates at $7.69 billion. The stock dropped 5% after hours. The company expects $8.7 billion in sales next quarter. AMD is the second largest AI GPU maker behind NVIDIA, gaining clients like OpenAI. New AI chips, Instinct MI400, launch next year, but U.S. export controls hurt sales to China, costing $800 million this quarter. Data center revenue grew 14% to $3.2 billion, boosted by CPU demand for AI servers, CNBC has reported. Client and gaming revenue rose 69% to $3.6 billion, driven by strong Ryzen CPU and gaming GPU sales. 2 people were killed and 6 others injured in a shooting early Monday outside an unsanctioned warehouse party in downtown Los Angeles. Police had shut down the party hours earlier after spotting an armed person, but gunfire erupted around 1 a.m., causing chaos. Authorities suspect the event was tied to a gang-related Hood Day celebration and recovered multiple firearms at the scene, the Los Angeles Times has reported. The incident highlights growing concerns over illegal parties in downtown's industrial zones, where vacant warehouses often host unpermitted gatherings linked to violence, drugs, and other crimes. No suspects have been identified, and the investigation is ongoing. 3 people in need of medical care were evacuated from McMurdo Station in Antarctica by New Zealand's Air Force during a daring 20-hour rescue mission in freezing temperatures and total darkness. 1 patient required urgent care, prompting the United States National Science Foundation to request help due to limited medical resources. A Royal New Zealand Air Force C-130J Hercules, equipped with a doctor and night vision goggles, completed the midwinter evacuation after a U.S. team manually prepared a runway, CBS News has reported. U.S. officials called the operation nothing short of heroic. Families of Israeli hostages still being held in Gaza sailed toward the enclave on Thursday in a symbolic protest, urging Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government to halt plans to expand the war. The Hostages and Missing Families Forum called the flotilla an SOS to prevent further risk to the remaining 50 hostages, at least 20 of whom are believed to still be alive. As Israel's cabinet considered a full reoccupation of Gaza, families warned that such a move would endanger their loved ones and hinder efforts to secure their release, CNN has reported. The protest comes amid a worsening humanitarian crisis in Gaza, where over 61,000 Palestinians have been killed since the war began. Over 1,000 firefighters are battling the Gifford Fire in California's Los Padres National Forest, which has burned over 72,000 acres in Santa Barbara and San Luis Obispo, and is only 3% contained. The blaze has prompted evacuation orders and threatens 460 structures and injured 3 people thus far. Air quality alerts remain in effect due to heavy smoke. The cause is under investigation, ABC News has reported. Meanwhile, 2 new wildfires erupted on Monday, the Rosa Fire in Riverside County and the Gold Fire in San Bernardino County. South Korean investigators have requested an arrest warrant for Kim Keon-hee, wife of jailed former President Yoon Suk-yeol, over allegations including bribery, stock manipulation, and political interference. Kim was questioned for 7 hours on Wednesday and is accused of receiving gifts and influencing political nominations. Her husband Yoon resisted attempts for questioning related to her case for the 2nd time in a week, the Associated Press has reported. The probe is one of 3 investigations launched under new Liberal President Lee Jae-myung, following Yoon's removal from office and arrest over his brief imposition of martial law back in December. Italy has approved plans to build the world's largest suspension bridge, connecting the mainland to Sicily in a €13.5 billion project long delayed by concerns over earthquakes, the environment, and mafia involvement. Transport Minister Matteo Salvini called it the West's biggest infrastructure project, expected to create 120,000 jobs annually and boost southern Italy's economy. Preliminary work may begin by late 2025, with construction set for next year and completion targeted between the years 2032 and 2033, PBS News has reported. Attorney General Pam Bondi has ordered a grand jury investigation into how Obama-era officials handled intelligence on Russian interference during the 2016 U.S. presidential election. The move follows claims by the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, who declassified documents that she says show a, quote, treasonous conspiracy by Obama officials to undermine President Donald Trump. Critics, including the former Director of National Intelligence, James Clapper, have rejected the allegations as baseless, The Hill has reported. Former President Barack Obama's office dismissed the investigation as a, quote, distraction. Brazil's Supreme Court has placed former President Jair Bolsonaro under house arrest for allegedly violating court orders while awaiting trial over an alleged coup plot to overturn his 2022 election loss. Justice Alexandre de Morales cited Bolsonaro's continued political messaging, including a rally phone call shared online by his son, as defiance of restrictions. Bolsonaro denies the charges, and the move has drawn backlash from U.S. President Donald Trump, who has threatened Brazil with steep tariffs and called the case a, quote, witch hunt, Axios has reported. Bolsonaro is accused of inciting the January 2023 storming of government buildings. U.S. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene is calling on President Trump to pardon former Representative George Santos, who is serving a 7-year sentence for wire fraud and identity theft. Greene argued that Santos's punishment is excessive and praised his dedication to his constituents. Santos, a vocal Trump supporter, was expelled from Congress in 2023 after being exposed for fabricating much of his background and misusing campaign funds. President Trump has not ruled out a pardon, noting Santos was, quote, 100% for Trump, Axios has reported. Santos's loyalty made him a possible candidate for clemency, consistent with Trump's pattern of pardoning MAGA allies. Rescue teams are searching for U.S. climate journalist Alec Lunn, who went missing while hiking on a glacier in Norway's national park on July the 31st. Lunn, 38 years old, is an experienced outdoorsman and climate reporter known for covering Arctic regions and shrinking glaciers. Poor weather is hindering rescue efforts, with crews using dogs and drones instead of helicopters. Lunn's wife reported him missing after he failed to return for a scheduled flight, the BBC has reported. Based in London, he has written for major outlets including the BBC, The Atlantic, and National Geographic. 4 people were killed when a medical transport plane crashed and caught fire while trying to land at an airport in Arizona's Navajo Nation on Tuesday. The Beechcraft 300, owned by CSI Aviation, was en route to pick up a patient when it went down. The cause of the crash is still unknown, and the FAA and the NTSB are investigating. Authorities called it a tragic loss for the victims' families and the medical and first responder community, ABC News has reported. The airport remains closed during the investigation. Aalborg Zoo in northern Denmark is now asking the public to donate their small pets, such as guinea pigs, rabbits, and chickens, as food for its predators. The zoo says the animals will be humanely euthanized by trained staff to promote neutral feeding behaviors and animal welfare. The initiative aims to reduce waste and maintain professional care standards, the Associated Press has reported. The zoo also expressed interest in receiving horses, but did not list other animals. Top Democrats are escalating their response to a Trump-backed push to redraw Texas's congressional map, which could give Republicans up to 5 new House seats and potentially secure a GOP majority in 2026. Over 50 Texas Democrats fled the state to block the vote, while GOP leaders threatened fines and legal action. And in response, Democratic governors in California, New York, and Illinois are launching aggressive countermeasures, including attempts to redraw maps in their favor, Axios has reported. The battle reflects deeper party tensions and could shape the 2028 presidential field, with Governors Gavin Newsom and Kathy Hochul emerging as key figures in the fight. Vice President Kamala Harris is back in the spotlight with an upcoming book about her brief 2024 presidential campaign and growing speculation about a possible 2028 presidential run. While Harris embarks on a national listening tour, House Oversight Chair James Comer has indicated that she may be subpoenaed as part of his probe into whether Biden administration officials covered up signs of President Biden's mental decline. Legal experts note that compelling Harris to testify would be difficult due to executive privilege, and some doubt it would yield new information, Fox News has reported. Harris has not ruled out future political ambitions, but says she's currently focused on listening to Americans, not campaigning. The Bank of England is expected to cut interest rates by 0.25% to 4% this week, aiming to support the weakening United Kingdom economy amid rising unemployment and global trade disruption caused by new U.S. tariffs under President Trump. It would be the fifth cut since last August. The UK economy has shrunk for 2 consecutive months, and job vacancies and wage growth are falling. Despite easing pay pressures, inflation remains high at 3.6%, well above the 2% target, The Guardian has reported. A split vote is likely on the bank's Monetary Policy Committee, as concerns over rising food prices persist. By the 23rd, NASA released 9 stunning new images from the Chandra X-ray Observatory, offering an unprecedented look at high-energy cosmic phenomena like black holes, supernova remnants, and hot gas clouds. Unlike Hubble and the James Webb Space Telescope, which capture visible and infrared light, Chandra detects X-rays emitted from the universe's most extreme environments. These vivid images, often shown in pink and purple, help scientists better understand how galaxies evolve, stars form, and matter behaves under extreme conditions, the Daily Galaxy has reported. Combining Chandra's data with other telescopes gives a fuller, more detailed view of the cosmos. In a tense 3-day negotiation, Senate Democrats sought billions in previously approved government funding in exchange for confirming a batch of President Trump's nominees before the August recess. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer requested funds for health, global aid, and UN programs, while also opposing any late-year funding clawbacks. A deal to confirm about 20 nominees appeared close until Trump abruptly rejected it, leaving over 140 of his nominees, including ambassadors and top officials, waiting until at least September, CBS News has reported. Schumer blamed Trump for derailing talks, while President Trump accused Democrats of, quote, political extortion, and lashed out at Schumer on social media. Aalborg Zoo in northern Denmark is now asking the public to donate their small pets, such as guinea pigs, rabbits, and chickens, as food for its predators. The zoo says the animals will be humanely euthanized by trained staff to promote neutral feeding behaviors and animal welfare. The initiative aims to reduce waste and maintain professional care standards, the Associated Press has reported. The zoo also expressed interest in receiving horses, but did not list other animals. India and the Philippines conducted their first joint naval exercises in the disputed South China Sea, a move that drew criticism from China. The 2-day drills, aimed at strengthening defense ties and promoting regional stability, were closely monitored by Chinese naval vessels. While no incidents occurred, the Philippines reported being shadowed by Chinese ships. Both nations share territorial disputes with China, which condemned the joint patrols as destabilizing. Philippine Military Chief General Romero Brawner emphasized the need to boost deterrence through modernization and alliances, the Associated Press has reported. The President, Ferdinand Marcos, also began a visit to India to deepen bilateral cooperation. Storm Florence brought severe winds and heavy rain to northern Britain, disrupting travel, downing trees, and cutting power to over 22,000 properties. Scotland was hardest hit, with gusts reaching 90 miles per hour, prompting an amber warning from the UK Met Office. Trains, ferries, and events like Edinburgh Military Tattoo were cancelled, the Associated Press has reported. Authorities urged residents to secure outdoor items and prepare for winter-like travel conditions, as the storm also affected parts of Northern Ireland, Wales, and Northern England. White Castle has launched its first robotic food delivery service in Chicago, partnering with Coco Robotics and Uber Eats. The pilot program, based at the near West Side location on Roosevelt Road, uses zero-emission, AI-powered robots to deliver orders. Customers are notified when the robot arrives and unlock it via the app. White Castle hopes the technology will improve speed, reduce congestion, and maintain service quality, NBC News 5 Chicago has reported. Coco's robots have operated in Chicago since 2024 and are built for challenging urban conditions. It faces its second strike in a year, as 3,200 union machinists in the St. Louis area walked off the job Monday after rejecting a revised contract offer. The strike affects 3 defense plants and follows a failed deal that included 40% raises over 4 years. Union leaders say workers deserve a contract that reflects their skill and supports their families, CNN has reported. The walkout adds to Boeing's ongoing struggles, including $42.2 billion in losses since 2019 and past issues with its 737 MAX aircraft. Switzerland is seeking to negotiate with the United States after the Trump administration unexpectedly announced a 39% tariff on Swiss goods, more than double the rate for most EU imports. The tariffs, set to take effect August the 7th, could severely impact key Swiss industries like manufacturing and watchmaking. Swiss officials expressed disappointment, calling the move unjustified despite ongoing bilateral talks. The U.S. cited Switzerland's refusal to drop trade barriers as the reason, Al Jazeera has reported. The tariffs are part of broader duties on nearly 70 countries, though some, including the EU and Japan, have recently reached deals with Washington to avoid or reduce the penalties. Robinson, a 42-year-old far-right activist whose real name is Stephen Yaxley Lennon, was arrested at Luton Airport after returning from Portugal. He was wanted in connection with an alleged assault at St. Pancras Station on July the 28th, where a man suffered serious injuries. Robinson reportedly left the United Kingdom shortly after the incident and was arrested on suspicion of grievous bodily harm. The assault, partly filmed and shared online, showed a man claiming self-defense, The Telegraph has reported. The victim has since been released from the hospital and provided a statement to police. The U.S. Office of Special Counsel has opened an investigation into former Special Counsel Jack Smith to determine if he violated the Hatch Act during his criminal probes of President Donald Trump. The probe follows a referral by Republican Senator Tom Cotton, who accused Smith of politically motivated actions before the 2024 election. Smith and former Attorney General Merrick Garland have denied any political bias in the investigations. Smith's cases against Trump were dismissed post-election due to DOJ policy against prosecuting sitting presidents. The OSC, which enforces restrictions on partisan political activity for government employees, may have limited options since Smith is no longer a government official, ABC News has reported. The DOJ is also investigating Smith through a separate group examining possible prosecutorial misconduct. Over 700,000 bikers are expected to descend on South Dakota for the 85th annual Sturgis Motorcycle Rally, running August the 1st through the 10th, with pre-party starting July the 28th. The world's largest motorcycle rally is set to break attendance records and generate major economic impact, following a slight dip in turnout last year. Events include concerts by ZZ Top, Gene Simmons, and more, plus stunt shows, races, and rides through Black Hills landmarks, the U.S. Sun has reported. The city of Sturgis temporarily becomes the 4th largest in the state, drawing bikers worldwide to celebrate freedom and motorcycle culture. Senators have 12 votes left after Puro's confirmation, prompting Senator Thune to urge them to stay in the chamber and speed up the remaining votes, with no objections. President Trump praised Republican senators and Thune for advancing his appointees, blaming Democrats for delaying confirmations. Trump nominated Puro as U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., after his original nominee, Edward Martin, who failed to gain Senate support, CBS News has reported. Puro faced less opposition, despite past controversy involving a pardon that President Trump granted to her ex-husband for tax evasion during Trump's first term. 5 workers trapped in Chile's copper mine after a collapse caused by a 4.2 magnitude earthquake have been found dead, officials confirmed. The collapse, which occurred Thursday, also killed 1 miner instantly and injured 9 others. Rescue teams located the trapped miners using GPS but were unable to reach them in time. Authorities are investigating the cause of the tremor and whether safety protocols were violated, The Guardian has reported. The mine, the world's largest underground copper mine, is operated by state-owned Codelco, which has suspended operations and launched an internal review. 68 immigrants, mostly Ethiopians, died after a boat carrying around 157 people sank in rough seas off Yemen's southern coast. Only 12 survivors have been found, with many still missing. The vessel was traveling a dangerous smuggling route that's commonly used by migrants from the Horn of Africa heading to Gulf states. The International Organization for Migration has called for stronger legal migration pathways to prevent such tragedies, the BBC has reported. Despite ongoing risks and Yemen's ongoing civil war, over 60,000 migrants have arrived in the country in 2024 alone. A drone strike overnight caused a major fire at an oil depot near Russia's Black Sea resort of Sochi, prompting flight suspensions and a large emergency response. Russia also reported drone strikes in other regions. Russia claimed to have downed 93 Ukrainian drones, while Ukraine reported a wave of Russian drone and missile attacks that wounded several civilians. Amid ongoing hostilities, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky announced an agreement with Russia to exchange 1,200 prisoners, following recent negotiations in Istanbul, the Associated Press has reported. Meanwhile, U.S. President Trump set an August 8th deadline for progress on peace talks. Ukrainian authorities have arrested several officials, including a lawmaker and National Guard members, over a major corruption scheme involving inflated contracts for military drones and signal jamming systems. The arrest comes shortly after Ukraine's parliament restored the independence of its main anti-corruption agencies, following public backlash against President Zelensky's attempt to bring them under his control. Zelensky later reversed course, and the move was welcomed by Ukraine's European allies, concerned about the country's EU membership prospects, Al Jazeera has reported. Zelensky praised the anti-corruption agencies for their latest action. Montana authorities are searching for Michael Paul Brown, a suspect accused of fatally shooting 4 people at the Owl Bar in Anaconda, Montana on Friday. Brown, described as armed and extremely dangerous, is a local resident and Army veteran with a history of mental health issues. Officials believe he may still be in the area and are urging the public to stay alert. A $7,500 reward is being offered for information leading to his capture. The victims include a bartender and 3 patrons, all from Anaconda, NBC News has reported. A large-scale manhunt involving air and ground units is ongoing. Miami's sailing community is mourning the death of a 3rd child following a tragic sailboat and barge collision in Biscayne Bay on July the 28th. The crash, which occurred between Monument and Hibiscus Islands, involved 5 girls aged 7 to 13 and a 19-year-old woman, all thrown into the water. 2 girls died at the scene, and a 10-year-old girl succumbed to her injuries days later. The Miami Yacht Club and Youth Sailing Foundation expressed deep grief and pledged support for the families, CNN has reported. A Coast Guard-led investigation is underway with international cooperation from Argentina and Chile. A 4-year-old Bulgarian man was killed and a woman from North Macedonia injured after their vehicle struck a moose near the entrance to Alaska's Denali National Park early Friday morning. The crash occurred around 1 a.m. local time on the park's highway near mile 235. The man died at the scene, and the woman was hospitalized in Fairbanks. The National Park Service is investigating and coordinating with the Bulgarian embassy, CBS News has reported. Officials warned of the dangers of wildlife on Alaska's roads, especially at night. Texas Democrats plan to flee to Illinois to block a Monday vote on a new congressional map that would add 5 Republican leaning seats, denying Republicans the quorum needed to pass it. They accused Texas Republicans and Governor Greg Abbott of pushing a partisan redistricting plan tied to President Donald Trump's agenda and withholding flood relief aid to force the vote. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is supporting the Democrats by providing logistical help. Republicans argue the map corrects Texas's underrepresentation. Democrats face fines and possible arrest for leaving, while Texas officials threaten legal action, The Guardian has reported. The standoff also risks delaying disaster relief efforts for recent Texas floods. The week-long manhunt for Austin Robert Drummond, 28 years old, ended Tuesday when he was arrested in Jackson, Tennessee. Drummond is accused of killing 4 people, including 3 family members and a boyfriend, on July the 29th, and abandoning a baby in a nearby yard. He was unarmed at the time of the arrest, which made possible by multiple 911 calls from local residents. Authorities praised the community's role in the capture. Drummond faces multiple charges, including 4 counts of first-degree murder and aggravated kidnapping, ABC News has reported. A reward of up to $30,000 will likely be shared among the callers who helped locate him.